Zack Snyder was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and a lot of people are very angry at Zack Snyder right now because they feel that he has disrespected the Batman character because he's very blasé about the idea of Batman's no-kill rule, which obviously was very, very true in his movies. And this is an interesting discussion. So we put a poll up to you guys. I said, should Batman kill villains? Right now, we are 50, right? It says, yes, he should is winning at 50%. I don't know how you can be winning at 50%.
I voted no, so add one to the no's. I wasn't able to click it, though.
Okay, so you say no.
I was a no vote.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and listen to this clip first so that we can see what he's talking about here. We'll talk about it. So here's what he says.
Like, people are always like, well, Batman can't kill, right? So Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. And they go like, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like you're protecting your God in a weird way, right? You're making your God irrelevant if he can't be in that situation.
Did this guy direct it?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Batman vs. Superman.
Batman can kill. He doesn't. He chooses not to. That's the point. Not that he can't. Who is this guy? What?
Well,
of course he can kill.
He can't, according to the purists who say...
By his own rules.
Maybe they should say that he won't. Yeah, he can and he chooses not to. It's much more of a powerful thing that he can and won't do it than complete inability to do it.
Exactly.
He's able to.
What's interesting about this, that's not even the part that bothers me. It's the flippant nature where he says, as soon as they tell me I can't do something, that's immediately what I do. That's fine if it's your movie. If you wrote it, if it's based on characters that you created. You are a caretaker of something that is bigger than you, something that was created by people decades ago. Yeah. It's not your job to say, oh, I want to see what happens. Your job is to translate it in the best way possible, you dork. Like,
well, me personally, and I'm saying this not as a DC fan or like, I don't know anything about the canon here. I would prefer to see Batman kill villains. Personally, like, I would prefer to see that because I think real life heroes do kill villains and they're morally justified in doing so. And I think Batman's ethic of not killing villains puts more innocent people in danger. But obviously that doesn't work so well for the way the story is structured.
Well, I think Snyder kind of made something of a point in the opposite direction when he said you're defending your God in a real way. Because think about, obviously comparing comic books to scripture is a little silly, but take Christianity. I mean, the book might have some interesting scenes if Jesus could have killed somebody, but he didn't. Like, this is God himself, and he doesn't kill anybody in the book.
Sure.
We can't just change it later.
Somebody pointed that out in the chat
I don't mean
beforehand.
all heroes kill villains as like a syllogistic.
I wasn't saying that. I was
like,
talking more on the canon aspect.
Real heroes can kill villains, and they're not morally corrupt for killing villains.
Well, yeah.
Would you rather see Batman kill villains like by throwing them off of buildings and then you just see them fall, or like gruesome up in your face, twisting the neck, bones popping out? Like, do you like gruesome killing?
It doesn't quite matter to me, but I'm just saying, if I were Batman,
like,
I would.
Do you want to make the villains suffer?
No. I mean, that's not necessary. I mean, but ending
some of the villains, maybe
ending the life of the villain will save more people. And if Batman's goal is to preserve the dignity of human life, then killing someone who's a danger to society will accomplish that.
I think he's concerned about making more orphans. I'm not sure why he doesn't kill, but his parents were killed in front of him when he was a kid. So I think he doesn't, just in case those villains have kids.
Dude, the Joker doesn't have kids.
I think censorship laws made it so that Americans couldn't make vigilante justice a good thing back when Batman was first released.
Here's the other thing. Look, anti-hero stories from the Hollywood perspective were cool about 15 to 20 years ago when it was actually unique and somewhat new. Think of The Watchmen, stuff like that. Now, dark stories are just synonymous with lazy writing because they don't want to get themselves painted into corners that they don't know how to write themselves out of because they're not gifted enough to do so. Hope and justice, those concepts, as dorky as it sounds, there's a reason everyone was pissed when Superman snapped Zod's neck. Okay.
Superman is different, though. I mean, for Batman's character, it does make more sense.
And I also think that for Hollywood, these characters were created at a time when there was more faith in law enforcement. Right? So
Sure.
the idea here is that the modern day Hollywood writer doesn't necessarily believe in the idea of the justice system and the idea that you let these people go in front of a group of their peers. They would rather see this character do that because they would see the police as the problem anyways, which is just a sign of different stories being adapted at different times.
We've got a $20 from Dreamcast Night. LOL, Batman is based on Joaquin Moreta, a man who got famous for killing people that murdered his brother. The pipeline is Joaquin Zorro Batman, LOL.
And then another one from
I would watch a Zorro Batman crossover film.
And then another one from Crispy Leg Transport LLC says they tried that before and it didn't go well for sales. Remember that Bane broke Batman's back and that's back that's back and that crazy look over until he came back.
Over
The word back was in there at least one too many times.
It's a lot of back.
Look, it's about putting him in these situations and then him being heroic enough to find his way out of. Also remember, these are characters. When you watch movies, you're going to see the character one time. Theoretically, before multiverses and all this stuff was a thing, you would see that villain take on that good guy one time.
Sure.
Right? In the comic books, these characters are cyclical and they come back and they're for multiple runs. Again, you guys made fun of me when I used the word rogues gallery earlier. It's
just a funny term.
There is an economic issue to the reason why he doesn't kill when it comes to storytelling. You can reintroduce the same villain and different villains interact with different heroes and bring about different parts of their characters. It's actually one of my favorite parts of that type of storytelling. Also, his dislike of canon is why everyone hates Hollywood. It is. Your ability, and I used Lord of the Rings. I said, you guys love Lord of the Rings. Everyone hates Rings of Power, okay? Nobody wants to see the stories that they loved growing up adapted in a way that just says, I wonder what'll happen if I, change everything about it. What if he doesn't throw the ring into the molten lava? What if he, throws it over the lava? No. That's not what it's supposed to be.
Oddly enough, Disney's kind of found a way to do it. Their whole what if thing, so that they're subverting the story.
That was Marvel too. Marvel did
but that's
that.
also
the What If series of comics was
Strange
great.
Worlds, and that's
If you're gonna change the canon, make it clear that this is an alternate universe, and don't do what Amazon did, where they're like, we're gonna have Isildur alive 2,700 years before he was born.
It's one of the reasons why cop shows in movies with law enforcement get away with this, because it's sanctioned. Okay. It's so vengeance is allowed, right? Because the government, the state said so. Maybe that is my ultimate distrust of the system.
I guess I'm responding to the broader philosophical point. I disagree with the idea that a hero becomes an anti-hero when he kills a villain.
I do disagree that you immediately become an anti-hero.
Okay, so if the Punisher goes into a room of mobsters, kills everyone there, does he know each and every one of those was actually a member of the mob? Maybe one of those dudes is just his dorky cousin, Mike, who just happens to be there with a group of wise guys. He hasn't thought about it beforehand. That makes him an anti-hero.
Well, but in that case, he's not killing the villain. He's killing a bunch of random Italian dudes from Jersey.
He's killing villains. He's killing members of the mob.
But you just said they're not. What if they're not all members of the mob?
Okay.
Then he has killed people who are innocent, not just the villains. You know.
Okay. So
if he kills just the villain, that doesn't make him an anti-hero.
So you're saying that just killing bad guys.
This is why Walter White is an anti-hero. You could say that he became the villain, but a lot of people just see Walter White as an anti-hero.
I'm also more in favor.
Jesse's the
I
anti-hero.
like stories where they trick the villains into bringing about their own demise. Right? That's almost more interesting to me, where they catch a dude gets caught ratting out people or telling on himself, and then his own group takes care of him, which you still brought about the end of this dude's life. You provide the evidence. Does that morally absolve you of what happened? That's an interesting discussion.
Does it make you an anti-hero if you're willing to kill those that you perceive to be villains, regardless of if they're a villain or not? Just if you think they're a villain, if the hero then was like, I'm willing to kill that villain, then they become an anti-hero.
Parallels here.
Yeah.
I see a lot of this stuff, and I think it is interesting because most people can have these discussions, and it's in good faith, right? I have fun with it, but I think most of it comes down to the fact that he was so disrespectful of the fact that the people who make these characters viable, meaning that there would be no Batman movies if there weren't 80 years of comic book stories for people to choose from. Right? Meaning that a long list of people for a long time financially put in to make this character the way it is. To disrespect them, it's not, like, and I say it like this, I didn't hate most of those movies. I love the visual aesthetic of those films. I think he's a long-winded storyteller. I do, on a pragmatic level, I'm like, also there's a huge difference here between the idea of street-level villains and super villains from other planets and stuff like that. I also like the idea they say Batman doesn't need to kill him. Like the doctor bills alone will put most of these people in jail for the rest of their lives because they won't be able to pay for all of the surgeries that they have to have. Like all of the CTE from banging guys' heads into the ground is enough, right? It's interesting, but it's the disrespect to the people who made these characters as relevant as they are that matters.
Is the movie out yet?
No, this is like it's actually not for a
This is
recent
pure
movie.
conjecture.
His time at DC is done, and it's interesting. It's
when
funny
it comes to superhero franchises, it's already a charged discussion anyway.
Yeah.
But
and look, and that's the funny thing. Like when we talk about the Nolan films, I'm like, there's no way nobody died when he's driving the tumbler all over Gotham like a madman.
right, like Batman has killed more innocent people than villains.
But at that point,
that seems backwards to me.
The formula of storytelling that is if they don't show a body, there's no way to know for sure they died. This is also, if anybody here watched the show Arrow, so in that show, when Oliver Queen, he's been abandoned on an island for 5 years, and he basically turns himself into a human weapon, right? And he comes back and he's just killing bad guys. That's what he does. He shoots him in the heart with an arrow. By season 4, he basically says, I'm not going to kill anybody anymore. Right? He stops killing people, either in season 3 or season 4. By the end of season 4, he's taking on Damien Dark, who is a supervillain, and he says, he goes, other villains, I had a choice. With you, I don't. People will die, and he kills them. Okay? A lot of people didn't even like that. They're like, yeah, figure it out. Call Amanda Waller. There's got to be some way that you can get this taken care of without having to resort to killing, because it's about the struggle that the character goes through. I don't know. It's interesting, but I think for the sake of the matter, it's the disrespect to the lore.
Yeah.
Well, where are the Snyder stands when you need them the most? No one's defending him right now.
They're around somewhere. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.